Welcome to our viewers. My name is Hasmeen Bolsas, and I'm the Residents United Network Program Associate at Housing California. I'm here to welcome our guests for what's sure to be an exciting, impactful workshop. But before we get to that, I want to share a few thoughts about our amazing presenter and guide this morning, Thomas Allen Harris. Thomas is an award-winning filmmaker and creator for Family Pictures USA, which airs on PBS. Mr. Harris has received numerous awards, including Guggenheim, Rockefeller, and United States Artist Fellowships, as well as an NAACP Image Award as an African Oscar and Emmy and Peabody nominations. Beyond his many accolades and captivating stories is a concept that rings true today. I am, we are connected. That's one of the quotes from Mr. Thomas's 2018 TEDx talk on family portraits and why they matter to our story. In this moment of concurrent crisis, that quote has proven more true than in any moment in recent history. Yet there are some barriers, both known and unknown, that we have to overcome together as we continue to look at how we will redefine our respective communities and states' narrative in a more equitable, inclusive lens, particularly when it comes to affordable housing and how we see the issues and people around this issue. Much of the work we Housing California and our partners do with Residents United Network centers around this notion of what it looks like to face housing insecurity. Residents from across the state and across identities team up to redefine the narrative around affordable homes. People like Coach Ron in Los Angeles and Andrea in Sacramento and others share their stories of what home means to them and why neighbors, legislators, and advocates should get involved in the effort to make sure all Californians have a chance to find and keep an affordable place to call home. That's what brings us to this session. Thomas and a collection of special guests will take us through a concept of home and how something as small as their family photos can play a big role in shaping or reshaping narratives around notions of justice, equity, inclusion, diversity, and belonging in the movement for housing justice. So with no further ado, I will pass it over to Thomas.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. Hi, everyone. My name is Thomas Allen Harris, and I am the host and creator of Family Pictures USA. And it's so great to meet all of you today. We'll be exploring in this session new ways to family album in the digital age, particularly around creating new narratives around the notion of equity, inclusion, diversity, and belonging in the work for housing justice. First off, I'd like to begin with a poll to break the ice. And if you checked out right now, most of the pictures, most of the pictures on our mobile phones would be either of me, of my significant other, or of my family, or of my pet. So we'll give everyone a few seconds to take this poll around the images on their mobile devices right now. And mobile devices are pretty much our family albums in the present moment. And someone asked for other options. My baby, screenshots of the presenters. So the poll we have given the choices are 56% of my family. And so that's pretty significant, 56% of my family. Then it goes down to 20% of my furry family, which is my pet. And then to 13% of me in the age of the selfie. And then lastly, 12% of my significant others. So as you can see, this poll really indicates that our phones are now our family albums. We've been using family photographs to help illuminate who we are and our shared values and experiences for the last 10 years. What we know is that no matter how long you've known someone, there's still much to learn when we delve into the family photo album. Because he has to leave early today, I've asked Fernando Gaitan to help me with a brief demonstration of this. And please join me in welcoming Fernando Gaitan. He is the Director of Legal Training and Professional Development at the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles and a Housing California board member. Fernando, welcome. We'd like to have you join us and also bring on your first family photograph. Let's go to the first slide, please. Okay, so Fernando, can we see you? Are you there?
Yes, yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
My camera's on.
Okay, great. Welcome, Fernando. So this is a beautiful, lovely frame. Who is this person and why did you decide to bring this, photograph to share with us today?
Well, thank you for this opportunity, first of all. This is the only photo that I have left of a dear friend of mine, an unlikely friendship, if you will. Someone I came to know as a young man. My parents immigrated from Mexico, and in the early 1970s, they were fortunate enough to be able to purchase their first home in a neighborhood in San Bernardino, California, that at the time was transitioning quickly. Betty Carteret is pictured in this photo. She, at the time that I met her, I was probably 12 or 13 years old, and she was in her mid-70s. She was a veteran of World War II, one of the first people to move into these tract homes in the 1940s in San Bernardino, in the neighborhood that my parents eventually landed in. And while in this time, the 1970s and in the early 80s, folks were leaving this neighborhood. White people were fleeing this neighborhood. Latinos and African Americans were moving in, and my family was one of those families that came. Betty was still there, and Betty opened her doors to those of us in the neighborhood. I actually mowed Betty's lawn, and one day she took an interest in me, and it became a ritual that we would spend time together drinking tea and talking about World War II and just her experience as a woman in the Army when very few women were going through the ranks that she was within the armed services. So I love Betty dearly. She passed away in the 1990s, and before then, I had this dream of going to UC Berkeley. I wanted to go to college, and I had shared with her my aspirations. Unfortunately, right before I was going to college, my dad had lost his job, and our family was distraught. Not only were we trying to save our home from foreclosure, but I was wondering how I was going to pay for college in the first place. Betty sat me down at her kitchen table, brought out her checkbook, and wrote a check and handed it to me and said, "You have to go to college." I'll never forget Betty.
Can we
yeah.
photograph as well? That's a beautiful story. I just want to bring on the next photograph of you in college.
Sure.
And so you said you'd never forget that story?
I'll never forget that story. And this brings me to this image, which is my grandmother and my mother, two strong, wise women who imparted on me wisdom that I would never learn in college or in law school, which is where you see me here. And although Betty had passed away by then, I remember her along with these amazing women who really motivated me to stay with it and continue my education.
So Betty was part of an extended family that helped you navigate your way through to the successes that you currently are experiencing in your life, and your mom and your grandmother were also part of that family. Did they know one another? Did they get along?
Absolutely. Betty was one of those folks that helped everyone in her neighborhood, and my mom would cook for her when she wasn't able to cook, and she would bring over food, and they would exchange conversations, much like Betty did with me. And during the time, my mom was going through English classes and her citizenship classes, and so she and Betty became close friends.
Beautiful story. about the necessity of working together to create a home amongst people who are not necessarily blood family. Could we go to the next photograph? And who's in this photograph, Fernando, and why is this important to you in terms of home and family?
Well, this is about the families we choose and the families we form. My son, my partner and I, Miguel, and I adopted our son. When he came to our home for the first time, he was 7 days old. He's a little older in this picture. I chose this picture because, like the community that I had formed in San Bernardino with Betty and my mom and my grandmother, all sharing and becoming part of the community, unlikely friends, if you will. Very similarly, my partner and I decided to make our roots here in Northeast Los Angeles. And we've been in the same home for 20 years. And that little boy you see there has been growing up in the same neighborhood and making the same connections that I made in San Bernardino with friends and neighbors in our neighborhood. And it's important to me to think about that, to think about, how family is, the people who are in your house, maybe the folks that share your living room couch, but also those around you, those neighbors that also form part of your extended family.
And the last photograph, someone in the chat said, beautiful photo of your family. The last photograph, shall we go to the next photograph, please? So is this a more contemporary image of the three of you?
Well, yeah, pre-COVID, of course. Yeah, this is our last real vacation we were able to take together. And this is us in Alaska. My son now, 14 years old, a teenager going into high school. And I bring this photograph because, over the years, again, we've been able to form this bond in this community that we live in Northeast LA. And we've seen our neighbors' kids grow together with our son and off to the same high schools and sharing experiences together. And that, to me, is what family is all about.
And Fernando, lastly, I just want to ask you to reflect on these four images and how they influence your choice of profession and your passion in terms of your work.
Sure. Well, like many of those of us who are engaged with Housing California, home and place and space are so important. And right now, especially, it's not just about, forming community, but protecting our communities, allowing our communities to thrive, and really working. And this is what drew me to this work in the first place, is that notion that, where people make their roots really matters. And we should allow everyone an opportunity to have the same experiences, to have a Betty in their neighborhood who will share stories about their past and help each other out. So my desire is, and the reason that I'm so passionate about being a board member of Housing California, is that it truly is about that mission, about making sure that everyone has an opportunity to have a home, but also have a community.
Wonderful. Someone in the chat said, who has a Betty in their neighborhood? And I would also add, are we Bettys in our own neighborhoods? Thank you so much, Fernando. I really appreciate you sharing your family photographs. And,
thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, so we're going to continue now. I am going to show a family photograph as a way of talking about how this project evolved. This work, the power of family photographs to bring us closer together and foster real empathy, is unmatched. This work comes out of 30 years of making deeply personal films in which I've mined my extended family album to talk about larger social issues. And this photograph that you see now is a family photograph of my own. I'm on the left as a teenager, about 15 years old. My mom is next to me, and next to her is my stepdad, Lee. And then next to Lee is his best friend, Copes. Lee and Copes were South African exiles, and our in the 70s all the way to the early 90s was a gathering place for the center of a community of South African exiles and for the anti-apartheid movement. Next slide, please. Lee and Copes were part of the first wave of freedom fighters to leave their country in 1961 with the mission to build a global anti-apartheid movement in exile. Little did they know that it would take almost 3 decades before they were able to return to a free, democratic South Africa. When Lee died, I went to South Africa for the first time and realized that people there didn't know the story of these exiles who sacrificed so much for their freedom. Even though in many cases they were living right next door to these heroes, like Betty was to Fernando. They were actually neighbors, but they knew nothing about one another. So when I began making this film, I took Lee's album back to South Africa, connect an older generation of activists who had the stories with a younger generation of actors who were involved with me in recreating this hidden history for the camera. As a result, this had a major impact on the country in understanding and celebrating this lost generation. And now this generation, the 12 disciples of Nelson Mandela, is remembered and celebrated, as you can see in this government-generated poster. As I toured with the film around the globe, audiences began asking me for a platform to help them similarly use their family archives. So when I began working on my next film about the hidden contributions of African-American photographers, I started a community photo sharing project alongside it entitled Digital Diaspora Family Reunion. We invited people to bring photographs in to share with us, and we provided them with a mechanism for them to get to the stories underneath their family photographs, the stories behind the photographs. We go to a community and work with community partners. They include museums, galleries, libraries, schools, churches, senior and youth centers, or public housing authorities, like the Gowanus Houses in Brooklyn, where we worked with an organization called Healthy Families New York and residents there in Gowanus to make visible their diversity, a rich history of activism, as well as their contributions to their neighborhood. Here is a clip of the documentation of that community photo share in the Gowanus Houses.
Floyd. I was born and raised in Fort Greene Projects.
My name is Beverly Ann Corbin Handy. When they say it takes a village to raise a child, this lady helped me raise this baby.
My name is Karen Michelle McCreary. I was born here in Brooklyn.
My name is Miss Cookie, but my real name is Karen Reed. I was born in Brooklyn.
My name is Darlene Stokes. I'm the oldest girl of 11 children.
Edna McCray. I was born here in Brooklyn.
My name is Jean Sutherland. I was born in St. Thomas, the Virgin Islands. I've been here since I was 7 years old. I will now be 82 in November 13th.
My name is Patricia Herbert Jr. I've been living in Gowanus for over 50 years. And I raised this lovely family here. I have 4 sons and 8 grandchildren. And a host of friends and family right here. Yes, here we go. This is Cousin Billy. When we first met,
he's white. So when I said, you're not related to me, because you're white. And he said, yes, I am. We have Irish in our family, we have white people in our family, we have African American people, and we have Indian people in our families. I'm the baby out of 2 girls from my mommy and daddy. This is me. I'm the fat baby on daddy's lap and my sister Pamela. This is my mom right here. My mom's name was Lois. She was a registered nurse at Lutheran Medical Center here in Brooklyn. Look alike a lot. Miss that was the day she learned how to drive. This was in Mobile, Alabama. And this is me when I was little. This was in Montgomery, Alabama, in 1974. I remember getting bit by a mosquito. And my face blew up. Then I kept saying, I hate going down south, I hate going down south. But ever since I was little, I love it. You know, I tell my kids about it all the time. I have 3 boys, 1 girl. She's the princess. They all begin with T's. Tashane, Tashanique, Terry, and Tyrese. I have a sister, older sister, and she has 1 son, Rodney. So I basically raised him, you know. After my mother had to work so much, I was the only one in the household, basically. Teenager, 13. I didn't want to do it, but I had to do it. I'm glad I did it. And this is a trip with him with Miss Edna's apple picking with the Bethel Daycare Center. And I was like, we're going to make some apple pies and we're going to get it on.
The reason why I bought this picture, it was in the Daily News that cotton grows in Brooklyn. I had never seen cotton grow before in my life. I did not know that cotton had a flower. And back here in the background is the cotton. And this is from 1964. I have 4 children, and I have 8 grands and 5 great-grands. And I was the only child, so my mother said, my God, from you I got so many, you know, so she was happy. You know.
I grew up on Orange Street between 3rd and 4th Avenue. And from there I lived on Bergen Street. And from there I went to Gowanus and met my Gowanus family. And Mrs. Sutherland and I became friends and were like sisters. She and I were active in the community. And we participated in keeping the school open. Citywide, the schools were shut down in 1968. A teacher was brave enough to cross the picket line. And we went into the school and we slept there until the strike was over. They were fighting for a contract, and we were fighting for the education of our children. But we were young and strong, and we didn't scare so easy at that time. Another program, in the summer we would have youth employment program. They always gave me the toughest group to work with. The GED program. I was a remedial teacher, a graduation, and a disco combined. I was recruited to be a teacher at Bethel Baptist Daycare Center, which was recently closed after 41 years of service.
Yes.
Sad.
All our children went there.
Yes. There were a lot of activities for the kids, which is something that's missing now. I always tell people it's been a good journey.
This is a portion of a longer video, one of the many that you could see on our Family Pictures YouTube channel. This community photo share with our production team empowered these ladies, these residents of the Gowanus houses, who told us that they rarely saw themselves and their histories represented positively in the media. Normally in the media, people who were part of the public housing were completely hidden or absent. Using photos to tell a community story is especially powerful for those whose histories have been erased or otherwise made invisible. After holding live events in over 75 cities and interviewing literally thousands of people about their family photographs, we thought this could impact even more people with a television show. We on Family Pictures USA 2 years ago as a way to create, in the words of Howard Zinn, a people's history of America, to understand better who we are and our respective contributions to where we are today, as well as to our histories. So I'm going to show just a short clip, trailer of Family Pictures USA, which is streaming across various public television stations today, and also on Amazon Prime.
When you look at these images, what do these photographs mean to you?
This photo means the world to me.
That's my great-grandfather right there.
These are my cousins and I love them.
This is Family Pictures.
Family Pictures.
Family Pictures USA Action.
I'm Thomas Allen Harris, host of Family Pictures USA. I take pictures, make films, and now I'm traveling the country looking for stories hidden in the family album.
He came from nothing and provided for us through picking oranges. That meant the world.
My dad worked at this plant for 20 years.
Do you have a picture of your dad?
This is his ID badge.
Whoa!
Was it a crisis when you made the shift from tobacco?
It's not like a paycheck every month.
Yeah.
You know, and the bills certainly come every month.
Using family photos, we're expanding our history.
My mom brought us here from Vietnam.
From Italy.
Mexico. From India.
From Guatemala.
From Iran.
Exploring the stories that connect us to people.
It's maintaining your life and your culture.
And places.
What happened to this neighborhood? There were a lot of these beautiful buildings that were mowed over.
Family Pictures allows us to come together.
And we're one family.
And we're one family. Join us on this journey, and you'll never see America the same way again. Family Pictures USA, coming to PBS.
The series was broadcast on PBS to 5.3 million viewers last year and is currently streaming on Amazon as well as YouTube. On social media, viewers continue to upload family photo stories that collectively provide an album of the nation, refashioning the national family album who are. For example, in the Southwest Florida episode, we had people who were families and histories of Naples, which is one of the wealthiest cities of America, interwoven with folks from Immokalee, the salad bowl of America, home to migrant farm workers for generations. It is still one of the poorer cities in the nation, dependent upon ranching, agriculture, and migrant workers. But through activism and collective action, the series shows farm workers who are actively building thriving communities and owning their own homes, realizing their dreams of a better life for their children. Whether we're talking about Richmond, California, Oakland, St. Louis, Detroit, Atlanta, So many of Family Pictures USA images of hidden and absent narratives of home. Multi-generational places built by a relative and proudly handed down to each new generation. Stories of migrants and immigrants settling into their first home. Some shared stories of being the first people of color to integrate into a neighborhood. Stories of homes lost, torn down in the name of urban renewal or other forms of prejudice and racial injustice. Stories of home as a place of pride and accomplishments, a human museum. Stories which are hidden or absent in our national family album. So the question is, how do we visualize new narratives around ideas of diversity in relation to housing justice? How do we expand our idea of home to include others and in situating our views of others in the context of their own homes? And before we go to our larger sharing of our special guests that have been chosen with us, together with Housing California, I have a second poll. And I would like people to respond to the last time I backed up photos on my phone was A, never, B, within the last 48 hours, C, last week, and D, I don't remember. Okay, so 49% of people said I don't remember. 23% of people said within the last 48 hours. You guys get a star. 16% of people said never, and 11% of people said within the last week. And this is really telling, given that we have the family album is now basically located on our phones. All the images of our children, of our homes, of a kind of a visual diary of our lives. So it's really important to begin to back up those images and even print them out and curate them into a narrative. So as part of that idea of curating our visual narratives, we have some wonderful special guests and today who are going to share the narratives within their family photographs. And the first one is Lisa, Senior Affordable Housing Finance Consultant at Community Economics. Welcome, Lisa.
Good
So
morning.
Lisa, good morning. I'm broadcasting from New York, so it's afternoon here, so good afternoon. The first photograph we have that Lisa shared with us is around her grandparents' immigration from Japan to the US. Tell us when and where this photograph was taken and why you chose to share this particular photograph as the first photograph today.
So this is a photograph of my grandparents' wedding day in 1932 in Los Angeles. So my grandfather had emigrated earlier, and then my grandmother had just arrived the day before on a boat. And as soon as she got to the United States, my grandfather took her to the beauty parlor and got her hair marceled, and she got her beautiful wedding outfit. And they got married in the brand new Los Angeles City Hall in 1932. And I love this photograph because it really reflects their vision of, who they are. They left their home to be in the United States where they thought they could really find a place that they could be themselves and be modern and be American. And for her whole life, my grandmother used to talk about her fur-trimmed coat that she got to wear on her wedding day. So this is really a special photo for me, and it really talks about the kind of spirit that they bring to the United States. And it's about, leaving their home and making a new one in the United States.
What a beautiful studio portrait. Shall we go to the next photograph, which is actually more of a kind of a snapshot. So who's in this photograph, and why is this photograph important to you, Lisa?
Well, you can tell this is a Christmas lunch 1971. That's me with the pigtails, and my sister is the little baby. That's my mom in the middle and my dad behind her. And my grandparents are on the left, and my aunt and uncle. So this was just us being very American. You can see we're being very American here. And this is the idea of eating together, sharing food, being American, celebrating a holiday was really important, because in between that photo of my grandparents' wedding and this one, of course, was World War II, and my family was completely displaced. They lost their home. They lived in Utah during the war and had a terrible, terrible time and had to rebuild their home when they came back. And so by 1971, I think this was a feeling of, we're here, this is home, we're American. And all those stories about World War II and displacement were stories that I didn't hear about until just before my grandparents died. So this is happy they found home, but it's happier because they lost their home.
Beautiful and poignant. Let's go to the next photograph, please.
So this is my current family. That's me in the middle, and my husband, my children, my in-laws, my brother and sister-in-law, and their children. And you know, it's interesting to me because my married family, their history in the United States is so different. And you know, half of my married family is Jewish, and half of them, some of them came and signed the Constitution. So the idea of this blended family is really exciting to me, and what my children will experience as where they belong and where their family is and who their family is and how they fit into the American story is really exciting to me.
Wow, what a beautiful set of photographs, and a diverse set of photographs and family members. So thank you so much for sharing them with us, and providing a linkage between these three different moments in time in California history and ideas around family and home.
Thank you for letting me share that.
Wonderful. Next special guest is Stephanie Ortiz Nueva. Stephanie is an intern at the Neighbor Works Sacramento. Stephanie, welcome.
Hi. Super excited and nervous at the same time.
Well, don't be nervous. But we're so happy to have you here and to share some of your family photographs. So let's start with your first photograph.
Yes, that is my daughter. She was 1 at the time. And yeah, I mean, the reason that I shared this photograph is just the way that she's standing so tall. I mean, I want to walk her in life where she doesn't have to worry about anything. You know, my mom, like going to the next photo, is a picture of my mom. And there we go. She was 17 when she had my oldest brother. I'm the second to the oldest. A year and a half, she had me. And then 2 years after that, she had my younger brother. And, you know, the reason that I love my mom so much is because she worked so hard to support us. And then a couple years, 2 years after my father had left us, he went to go start another family. So he never really looked back. And so my mom was working like all the time, and she was just trying to support us. We moved around Sacramento, California, because that's where I was born and raised. We moved all around Sacramento to different houses, but every single time, you know, the living situation got better. It's just that my mom was never really home. And you know, I mean, I don't blame her for not being there. It's just more the fact that she was trying to support us and stuff like that. She did meet somebody who was abusive to us. And from that, I mean, he had left because he had ended up getting deported because he was undocumented. And from that whole time period, I had gained like low self-esteem. I was not very confident. So, I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't blame my mom. I love her. She's worked really hard to provide what she has, and she has given me the opportunity to go to school, be able to raise my daughter. And so, yeah, just to her, she just reminds me of a home because she's just so strong. She protects us from anything. I mean, not everything, but you know what I mean. Like, she's just very strong and she's there.
And this is actually an image of your mom at work, is it?
Yes, she was a kitchen manager for 17 years at Hometown Buffet before they closed down a couple years ago.
Did she keep this photograph in the house so that you got the chance to see what your mom, you know, what she looked like at work? Did she, or was this a photograph that you found much later?
We just had like a photo album, and she had like a lot of pictures from when she used to work. And I just love it because she was always there. I felt like Hometown Buffet was like kind of like a home for me. Me and my brothers would always go, like when we didn't have anybody to take care of us, we would sit in like the booths and go and grab some like cookies or like some chicken, some drinks, and we would just sit there with her. And she brought us along to work, and everybody loved having us there. So it was always a great experience. And it's unfortunate that they closed down because now I'm not able to take my daughter and show her where I kind of like grew up. And so it was a very nice experience.
Thank you. Let's go to the next photograph, which is in a yard. So tell us about this photograph. With all the furry family.
So right there is a more current picture. It was kind of pre-COVID. We were doing some porch sessions. We wanted to get like some updated family pictures. So that right there is my husband now. We've been married for 3 years. We were together in January. It's about to be 10 years together. So we were there since like 14, 15 years old. That right there, those two dogs, they're not my dogs. They're my stepfather's dogs. They were just coming home from work. He went to go grab some tools, and this dog jumped out, and he's like, I want to get in the pictures too. I'm considered family. So we were just laughing. I mean, this kind of just reminds me of home because I like to think of home as a gathering place, a place of laughter, joy, and that's just something that I want to grow my daughter into. So she's like able to just have fun and just be silly all the time, and that's what I considered home. And then like literally I could hear like laughter coming out of this photograph.
And it brings a smile to my face. So we're going to end with a photograph that's similar to the first. It's a young picture of her. Is that the next photograph that we're going to? And what's happening behind in the background?
So with such a chaotic life that I had, I just love this picture so much because this is my daughter's first birthday. It was a smash cake that I wanted to do for her because I feel like when they do birthdays, you don't really remember what happened. Like they don't remember what happened. And so I just felt like it was a beautiful moment that I could be able to provide for her. And I feel like my mom giving me the chance to provide a home, I'm able to do these special little things with my daughter. And I added roses like on top of her head on her cake. You can't really see her cake, but it has like roses, it has butterflies, and it just kind of symbolizes my daughter as being just beautiful and pure to me. And it's just something that I just want to be able to share every year, just different things, different celebrations, as I can embarrass her as much as I can. It just kind of just shows us like our culture as well. I mean, just we're Mexican, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, and thank you for your multi-generational story, and also honoring the sacrifices that your mom made so that you could reap these benefits today and document them for your daughter, which is really powerful. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next special guest is Bill Picknell. And Bill is the CEO of Brilliant Corners, and a Housing California board member. Bill, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. I love this photograph. I know this is not a family photograph necessarily of
No.
a portrait of you in front of all these buildings, but I love that. So let's go to the first picture that Bill has shared with us. So we can the framed photograph, so we can have Bill talk about that. And actually, Bill, if you could tell us about this photograph, but also right before you do that, where was that photograph taken? The first photograph.
The first photograph or this one?
The first photograph.
Oh, that's me pretending to be the CEO of a big time affordable housing provider here in California. That's right in San Francisco near Civic Center. There we are still. Our offices are still at.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And now this photograph that's framed, this is a much older photograph. It looks like it was maybe taken in the late 50s, early 60s.
You know your business. You know, I think the first thing I'll say is that all of these photographs that I'm going to share, I just collected from my mom's house. And, you know, I was back east during the pandemic twice, and my mom passed in June. And so it was just a real special time. And, you know, I had gone through the shoe boxes with these photos many times, but I gathered some for myself and shared others with other family members. This is a photo of my mom and dad that I sort of labeled for today's presentation the GI Bill. My dad probably was just out of the Army. And I don't think he used the GI Bill to buy the house, but it was that time period when a working class family could own their own home on a single income. And they bought this really modest post-World War II ranch home, I think probably 1959. Obviously today, most people couldn't afford to get their own home on a single income. And obviously back in that time, due to redlining and structural racism, a whole lot of Americans, even at that time, could not access this type of housing. And, you know, my dad passed in that home in 2003. My mom passed this year. So now my adopted younger brother still lives in the home. So it's 60 years and counting that modest ranch home, you know, provided a sense of security and togetherness and identity for my family.
Powerful. Thank you. And this next photograph, is this a photograph of your mom in that same home, but with a new couch?
Yeah. So I call this one, Here's to You, Mrs. Pickle, a silly joke about Here's to You, Mrs. Robinson, the Simon and Garfunkel song that was used in The Graduate. I have a lot of my memories of my mom, sadly, in this sort of pose. It's very characteristic, on the couch, alone, in semi-darkness, chain smoking, and, you know, on one different type of nerve pill, as she called it, after another. It's sort of the Anatomy of Melancholy, mid-20th century housewife edition. And our home was filled with nurturing and love and happiness, but also a lot of pretty common family dysfunction. And my mom, you know, carried a heavy emotional burden for various reasons. My father was her second husband, and he was generous with money, but not with love for the two kids from her prior marriage. And I think that's what you see here. Certainly my memories are mixed of really wonderful, loving times and fantastic food and family gatherings, but also very unsettling experiences for a young child seeing a parent so emotionally distraught and withdrawn.
And where was the house? Where was the ranch?
So this is, it was on a little country road in the western part of New Jersey near the Pennsylvania border, but also about 50 minutes from New York City, which we never visited as a family. Surrounded by fields and farm fields and woodlands, and just a couple of other houses on the street. So I'll say more about that when we get to other photos.
Yes, as the next, actually, we could toss it to the next photograph.
So this one, I call Nature Boy. When I think of home, I think, frankly, even more than I think of the house itself, I think of the yard and the woods and the creek and the fields around my house, where I spent all of my time playing alone as as what felt like an only child. I have an adopted younger brother, but he's almost 10 years younger than me. And then I have an older stepbrother and stepsister who are 18 and 9 years older, respectively. So I spent a lot of time outdoors playing alone and with neighborhood pets and wild animals. And, you know, my imaginative life was really bound up with the outdoors. And I sort of always look at this photo as foreshadowing a lifetime of both physical and imaginative searching to really recover the sense of wonder that I experienced as a child having access to nature. This is, so I also think of this as my going to California with an aching in my heart. Although it took me another 30 years before I moved to California, I look at the car with the trunk open there and think that it's time to go across the country.
And then we have a traffic sign in the next photograph. Let's go to that one. And so what's the significance of this and why is it part of your family photo album?
So this is sort of a joke photo that I included. Can't help myself. You know, this sign has been in front of my house, I think since I was a little boy. It's bent, probably due to snowstorms or if somebody drove into it. And, you know, by high school, I think I was proud of my ability to interpret the sign and pretty much everything around me as a fatalistic metaphor. And in fact, surrounded by outlets and the love that I got from my parents created the ability to, you know, to go different places. But at a certain point in my life, I looked at that sign as telling me something.
And the last photograph, I believe, is you either as an adolescent or this is, how old are you here?
Yeah, so this is probably preteen, and you know, my mom was incredibly nurturing. She made the best pies that you'll ever eat, and I'll stand by that quote. She's just amazing, and you know, took in other people's kids and stray animals, and just was a very nurturing person. And she also knew how to sew. And my mom, you know, like, I guess gave me permission to be flamboyant, and she would let me pick out whatever patterns I wanted. Wow. At the fabric store and make suits and things like this vest. And, you know, I actually don't know what pattern this is, whether it's a, you know, Native American pattern or some other type of indigenous culture, but I was fascinated by this type of pattern as a kid and had a lot of clothes made that looked like this. And you know, you look back and you think about those sort of really immature ways in which you're discovering life beyond your own family and your own family's sort of culture and ethnic background. And you know, I did a lot of research and found out the history, like there's periods of time when the mountains all around my house are called Pickle Mountains because basically my ancestors who came from Germany stole the land and renamed it, but they're now renamed Cushitunk Mountain, which is what they really should be called. So there's so many things to reflect on, but also a sense of like permission to explore that I got from my mom, permission to be myself.
Thank you. And the last image actually is an image of 3 kids on a lawn. The boy is wearing a brown suit with a tie. One girl's wearing a kind of dress, and there's a baby. So who is in this photograph? So, and why is this photograph important?
Yeah, that's me in the suit, probably one my mom made for me. And the 2 young girls are Krista and Joni. They're sisters, and they were foster children. And we had, you know, over the years, in addition to adopting my brother, who started off as a foster kid at 6 days old, and whose mom, you know, he's probably born with some trauma due to his mom's drug addiction. But we had lots of other foster kids and kids that came from New York City through a program called the Fresh Air Fund. And then, you know, grandkids, and nieces and nephews that spent, you know, significant time in our house. These 2 little girls, it was kind of traumatic because we had them for about a year, and then they were able to reunite with their birth mother just a couple of days before Christmas. And I still have a very clear memory of, you know, how traumatized my mom was. And we drove around. You're not supposed to do it, but we drove around the town that we had heard maybe the birth mother was from, and we couldn't find her. You're not supposed to try to reach them anyway. And we ended up giving all the Christmas gifts to another family. But for me, it just speaks to the fact that although I showed you that there was some unhappiness that my mother experienced inside the family home, it was just home and mom are indistinguishable for me. And it was her home And it was a home that she welcomed so many other people into, including people who were displaced from their own homes. So all that means a lot to me, especially given the work that I'm involved in now.
Thank you so much, Bill. And here again, we see the extended family, and and the generosity of your mom, who was not perfect, but was wonderful and gave so much love. And so, and it's being expanded through your work. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to share. It's a real honor. What a beautiful project. Thank you.
Yeah, and my condolences as well.
Thank you.
So our next special guest is Joyce Roberts. And Joyce Roberts is a resident at United Network leader. She's a resident United Network leader and Housing California board member. And so we have this beautiful portrait of Joyce Roberts, and we're going to welcome her.
Hi.
Welcome, Joyce.
Hi.
How are you
I'm
today?
doing pretty good.
Oh, good, good. So the first photograph is actually a photograph of a group of folks in a kind of restaurant, and it seems like it's a multi-generational group, a couple of men and three women, including you, and a young girl. Who is in this photograph, and why was this photograph important for you to share?
Okay, this was taken last year on Mother's Day, and the two young men are my sons, my oldest son and my youngest son, and the girl with the boots on is my daughter, and next to her is her youngest daughter. And this was important because, like I said, it was Mother's Day, and also my birthday was that week. And my oldest son, who I had not seen in years with the help of my kids, flew down from San Jose and surprised me. Knocked on my door the Saturday, the day before, with a bouquet of flowers. So this is actually the first time that they have actually gotten together. So my oldest son and my two youngest had not really never seen each other. So this was like a nice family reunion for me, and the best Mother's Day and birthday gift I could have ever gotten, because I've always wanted that.
Miss Joyce, you're bringing tears to my eyes. It's such a sweet story, and who would guess in that photograph? Even though you do see all the bright light that's coming out from all of your faces. Let's go to the next photograph, which is taken in a home.
Yeah, this
so
picture.
Tell us about this photograph. It's a bunch of some folks who are, I think, you on stairs, and I'm just describing it quickly because someone had asked me, for those who are vision impaired, just to describe the photograph. So it's a bunch of young people. They seem like they're in their early 20s, and some might be a little older. And there's you there, and everyone's posing on a set of stairs.
Okay, at the top is my youngest son, and underneath is my daughter and her oldest son. And then Kamaya is her youngest daughter. And then there's me, and then there's my youngest son's oldest daughter. And the little girl that's in between is a friend, is the granddaughter of a friend that was with us at this house. And the reason why I did this was, this house is my youngest son. He was able to get this through a GI Bill by going into service right after 9/11. He was a corpsman, and he served over in Iraq with the Marines. And because of the GI Bill, he was able to get this really nice house. And this is important to me because 30 years ago, me and my two younger kids were homeless, and we lived on couches with different friends. And also in 2001, we were also homeless. But my youngest son, that's when he went into the service right after 9/11. So, I mean, I know what it is to not have a home. So this is a place where we can get together with family and friends and just have a good time.
Did he go into the service thinking about the GI Bill? Was that a
no
consideration?
No, a friend of ours talked him into going into the service, and from there he just, he did what he had to do, and luckily he was able to get this house.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So we have another photograph of a young man standing on a stairwell outside at an apartment building or a home. So who is he? With his
This is my
fashionable.
this is my daughter's middle child. This is Marquise. He wasn't able to come to the gathering. He lives with his other grandmother in Texas, and I really miss him. But I wanted him part of this family portrait because he is family, and I love him.
And then we have pardon me?
He's quite a character.
Okay. Does he do any performance kind of work? He's so stylish with his super red sneakers.
No, he just likes basketball and football. That's his thing.
Okay. And then we have a photograph, and I think this might be your two sons and your daughter. Is that correct?
Yeah. This was taken at Red Lobster the Saturday that everybody came in. My daughter Ashley and her kids live in Vegas, and my youngest son flew them in for the reunion. So I had to take this picture of all three of them together.
Wonderful. So you're the one behind the camera?
Yes. Yep, those are my babies.
Is that typically your role in terms of the, do you take the family photographs of your family?
Most of the time.
Do you take the photograph? Okay. And so for you, what do family photographs mean in the context of home? And how is it? And yes? I'd like to have you answer that.
It's memories. It's memories of pictures that they'll have after I'm gone. They'll be able to look at those pictures and remember, how it was to grow up, and some of the struggles and how we overcame a lot of those struggles. So that's the importance for me.
Beautiful. And we have and it's a little boy with a great striped shirt.
This is my youngest
studio photograph.
Yeah, this is my youngest grandson. He also was not able to come to the gathering. This is my youngest son's youngest. That they have joint custody, and he was with his mom at the time. But again, he's the joker of the family, and he keeps us in stitches. So that's my boy. I mean, we almost lost him when he was 2.5 months old. So he's very precious.
So how does your grandchildren, how do they inspire the work that you're doing with Housing California?
I think because even at the time when I was telling you around the time of the 9/11, when my kids were homeless, 2 of my grandkids was also homeless. So to me, it's very important to have a home, a place to call home. I mean, this is something that is necessity. It's not a luxury that you can buy when you have the money. It's something that everyone's supposed to have and should have. And the work that Housing California does and the work that we do at Run is very important to get people off the streets and into affordable homes. So that's my everything right now, is to fight for that.
Beautiful. Do you tell them about your grandkids, about the work that you do?
Yeah, they know. Yeah, and they're proud of me.
And me too. Thank you so much, Miss Joyce Roberts.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your beautiful family with us, and your beautiful story of overcoming.
All right, thank you.
Service to society. Thank you.
Alrighty.
So our next special guest, bye-bye. Our next special guest is Sophia O'Neill Roberts. And look at that beautiful smile. Welcome, Sophia. How are you?
I'm sorry, I'm good. How are you?
We can't hear you.
Oh, can
I'm
you tell?
doing good. I'm doing good. We can hear you now.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so the first photograph you're sharing, it seems to be a photograph of a dig. So it's there's a machine digging into the earth. So why was this photograph important to share as part of your family album?
This photo is significant because it's actually my grandparents' house being built in 1977. Um, and they just bought this house. And the actually interesting story about this house is they were actually supposed to have another house down the street, and they bought it. They put a down payment on it, and everything. And as soon as they were gonna move in, they discovered another family already moved in their stuff into the house. And so they had to take the housing, yeah, they had to take the housing company to court and I guess the real estate agent, and they ended up buying this house or this plot of land for the house that they were going to be built. And it was a big thing. They were on TV, on the news, and it was just it was false advertising because they ended up not getting the house, but they got the one down the street on the corner. My grandma was telling me the story yesterday too as well, and she was just kind of iterating the kind of how angry she was and how like it was just so like crazy that they kind of experienced this like kind of discrimination firsthand. So yeah, my grandma's from Alabama, and my
Use the anger, the fight.
yeah. So yeah, my grandma's from Alabama, and my grandfather was from Savannah, Georgia, and they moved to California. And they met a few years after. They actually both came in 1966, but they came separately, and they ended up meeting, and they married, and they had my mom and my aunt. And yeah, that was pretty much all. But,
And is this next photograph a photograph of your grandparents?
yeah, it's actually, yeah, my grandfather, John O'Neill, and my mom, Andrea O'Neill. She's climbing on the fence in this photo. They are actually in Disneyland. My mom said that they were by a submarine attraction that I don't think Disneyland has. And this photo is always really like funny, kind of funny to me because my mom was always kind of labeled as like the bad child, kind of not doing what she's supposed to be doing, and like obviously she's not doing what she's supposed to be doing, but she looks cute with her little boots on and her skirt and sweater. And my grandfather's taking a photo. This photo was kind of significant because they often took trips to Disneyland about like 2 or 3 times a year. And my mom would always kind of like try to have that same kind of experience, like taking us on family road trips and kind of having the same kind of like, let's just get in the car and drive for 6 hours. So like kind of Disneyland was like a kind of sign of like, I don't know, kind of a sign of like home and kind of a sign of like doing family activities together. And my mom was actually 3 in this photo. This was taken in 1970. Sorry, I have it on my notes. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I forgot the year, but this was taken when my mom was 3, and since she was, I would
It
say
does look
20.
like the 70s.
Yeah. And then since
But
she
the
was
bell bottoms give us
about yeah. Yeah, and they stopped going to Disneyland when my grandfather passed away. But they've been going to Disneyland about 2, 3 times a year. And even when I was small, they would take me to Disneyland as well. It's kind of like, yeah, family kind of home experience of like all going to Disneyland.
Let's go to the next photograph, which seems like it's a pond. Is that a frog in the pond? Or some...
It's actually a leaf. My grandfather, that's my sister holding me in the pink shirt. That's me in the middle, and that's my grandfather at the end. He actually built a pond in the backyard. They had a swimming pool, a pond, a garden, and the backyard was pretty big. Or yeah, it's still pretty big. And they were building a pond. I was had no business being there. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, I had no business being there because it was just a kind of open field of water. They didn't build a fence or anything around it yet. And I was telling them basically what to do with the pond, even though I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing.
What a beautiful photograph, and it's so triumphant after the first photograph and the story of your family's, fight to, for justice. I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, and so we're gonna move on to our next special guest. Thank you again, Sophia, for being part of our presentation. Our next guest, our pleasure. Our next guest is Alejandro San, is an intern with Cabrillo Economic Development Corporation. Alejandro, also a great smile and a great red tie. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So this first photo you're sharing seems like such a happy family gathering photo. It's a snapshot, and everyone seems like they're doing different things in the photograph, but they're all kind of united in some special way. And someone's unwrapping a gift, someone else is holding up a gift, and it's obscuring their face. So it's a kind of a great holiday. It seems like a holiday photograph. Tell us why did you decide to bring this photograph, and who's in this photograph?
Exactly, you're right on the money with that. It is a holiday photograph. This is at Christmas a couple years back. Just for some context, all of my family immigrated here from Mexico, including both of my parents. And they set up shop kind of in a house, the one I'm actually currently in. They moved here in 1992. And at first it was just my sister, her cousin, and another sister, sorry. And when it was just three of them, they actually had a lot of family coming into the house since everyone was migrating to the United States. They needed sort of a safe haven to kind of, just stay at the house. So at times, even though this house isn't that big, there were up to 7 to 8 people living here at once, just in order to kind of have that little sanctuary everyone could come to. This picture in particular, in front and center right there is my grandma, beautiful woman. And this is during a Christmas. And for our family, Christmas is a very big holiday. We're very traditional, very religious. So everyone kind of gathers for Christmas. It's that one holiday everyone kind of comes together and buys each other gifts and spends a great time. Another person I want to point out in this picture is to the right is my Aunt Letty. She is such a strong figure in this family. I look up to her immensely. Being one of the only lesbian family members in a very traditional Mexican family, has shown its difficulties, has shown it can be difficult. And as someone who's part of the LGBT community myself, I do look to her for strength and inspiration at times.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. The diversity within our families, and it's so important to actually talk about family photographs and who's in the family photographs and why it's significant. Let's go to the next family photograph, which is also a holiday photograph.
Yeah, most of these are kind of holiday pictures. I found a big photo chest full of them. And here you can see kind of the size of the house. I did want to include that to show it's really not that big. However, that never took away from those moments where everyone was together, everyone was sitting together behind the Christmas tree. It definitely, despite the small space, it still felt like a very strong family. And it really showed me kind of growing up, because I was surrounded by this, that the size of the house doesn't really matter. It really is the people that kind of come into the home and make that experience.
Beautiful. And our next photograph, is this outside the home? It's a woman leaning against a tree.
This woman is actually my mom, and this is her leaning behind the tree. And I think this is taken only a year or so after the house was actually, purchased by her. I included this picture due to the fact that my mom is such a strong woman. When she first migrated here from Mexico, she took the responsibility, as being one of the very few bilingual people, to translate job applications, all sort of taxes, any information needed by family. She was always there to transcribe it from English to Spanish and vice versa. So she was always that very strong figurehead in the family. I hold so much admiration and so much love towards this woman, and I just felt like the family photos wouldn't be complete if I didn't slip this in there.
And the next photograph is, I see grandma's back, and perhaps you're in this next image?
I'm actually not. No, this was taken way back then, when I think during the '80s, and this actually shows both of my grandparents, my grandma and my grandpa. I did want to include this. They're both living today. I thank God for that. And they were always the life of the party. They brought so much cheer and joy wherever they went. And I also wanted to include this because of the fact that they are now relying on affordable housing just in order to get by. And I hold so much pride and so much honor knowing that I'm doing something that can help them in my internship program at the moment. I'm working towards a goal that will benefit them, in all ways. So I just wanted to include this picture as they're very important people to me and I hold them in very high regard.
And so the last picture is also a celebratory holiday picture. And I wanted to ask about how this home, this modest but super joyful and abundant home influenced your decision to do the kind of work that you're doing, and how the story is important to you in terms of who you are.
Of course. I have always been extremely fortunate to always have housing. I have personally never gotten to a point where it was an issue. However, those in my personal life, and several of the people you see in this photo actually, do rely on affordable housing and do rely on government assisted housing in order to meet their needs. So being surrounded by that at a very young age did influence me and did show me that people do need these programs. They do need this government assistance in order to go about their day by day. So it 100% influenced my decision to enter this field, as they are fantastic people. I love them to death, and I would love nothing more than to help them.
Thank you so much. It's so powerful to hear you and your story, and these wonderful photographs of these special moments. I really appreciate it, Alejandro.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so that's the conclusion of our special guest. I did want to thank them all once again for sharing their family photographs of home. Home is a gathering place for family and friends to find warmth, comfort, and safety, where traditions and memories are made and blessings are abundant. At Visionary Home Builders, we work hard every day to provide affordable housing in our communities that will become home to those most in need. And a quote from Alejandro. So I just wanted to thank you, Alejandro. Oh, I'm sorry. That is actually a quote from Carol, Carol Arnelius, who shared a family photograph, and we wanted to share that quote. And then we have another quote from Rhoda Minas. Home to me is more than just a physical building, but the people I share with it. One of my favorite quotes is, "Where we love is home. Home that our feet may leave, but not our hearts." Beautiful. Home to me is a foundation to a life full of love and security. Home to me is a place I am always welcome. Home to me is filled with opportunity and life. Home to me is where I cry, where I laugh, and where my best memories have been created. Wonderful. And last submission by Iris Murillo is, "It's the time spent with loved ones that makes a house a home, a place to rest and laugh and think and dream among loved ones who fill our lives with color, depth, and beauty." Like the puzzle we finished that night, which you could see in the photograph, my world was complete because we were together. Home to me at a young age revolved around my mom. This is still Iris. My mom, who worked multiple jobs and long hours to keep a roof over our heads. I would wait by the window every night looking for her face, because when she arrived, I was at peace. And there's a young Iris there with her mom, and then another one at the front of the house. Money was tight, but we So these are some of the reflections on home. And one of the questions that we received from an anonymous attendee is, I love these stories behind the photos, and thank you everyone for sharing. As we have learned, photos are very powerful. How can we use photographs to engage decision makers specifically? And, as part of my closing remarks, I'll address that question. I think it's so important to tell the stories of home, what home means. A lot of times people have different ideas of home. People might want bigger home or better home, or just they don't necessarily have a kind of a multidimensional perspective that we've seen today of homes. So it's so important that we actually narrate these stories of home as part of this movement for housing justice, so that people can identify with the basic needs and channel our inner Bettys and help people who are not necessarily related to us, who might be strangers, but we are welcoming them with our activism around creating affordable housing for all and housing justice, regardless of who we are. We use family photographs and family pictures to offer a new path forward in bridging differences and establishing more common ground as we pursue the work to assure safety and security of home, and that's available to everyone. So I invite everyone to use the family photographs and stories, including this taped presentation, as part of the movement to make people aware of what home means and the importance of home. And finally, before we go to our a couple of questions, we have our final poll is, this session has motivated me to A, back up my digital photographs as soon as I can, B, print out all of my most cherished digital photos, C, get the family album together for a family photo album night, and D, take even more pictures of the people I love. And I will start the question and answer. The more we take our photographs and the more we narrate them and create media out of them, the more we can get the word out around the importance of home, regardless of who we are or where we come from. So we're open to questions from the audience. Oh, here are the results. So our 74% more photographs people love. 38% said get the family together for a family photo album night so they could tell the stories to the next generation. Stories of successes. 42% said back up all my digital photographs as soon as I can. And 41% said print out my most cherished digital family photographs. And so someone, Bill Pickle said, my wife just asked me, why don't we take family photographs? Okay, so that's a question from your wife to you, Bill. Davina, to all the panelists, said, I choose all of the above. Johnny Chin, to all the panelists, I was thinking the same thing. We've got to preserve our memories. I've been able to make my films because I have received the family photographs from generations and talking about the activism within our family to inspire the next generation. In terms of my own, because I was able to understand the sacrifices my parents and grandparents did and helped me define my own mission. So an anonymous attendee asked, what are effective ways you found to get these stories of home in front of key decision makers? What are the effective ways to package them so busy lawmakers will want to watch to the end? So I would say, putting these things up on YouTube, having people share them, shorter the sweeter, 2 to 3 minutes, putting them up on Instagram, creating a movement amongst people that are our peers so that we all get on the same page in terms of family, because as you can see today, we've all identified with these notions of home and the importance of home, and then taking that to key decision makers as well. So I think it's both multi-pronged. Getting getting it in front of key people and having people share as part of the movement. And so that's the end of the session. I wanted to thank everyone for being a part, and I want to just thank Housing California for this amazing work that you're doing. And I'm going to now throw it back to Jasmine to take us to the next session. This session and recording and resources will be available on Workcast, so you could share that. And feel free to join our Family Pictures USA Facebook group and share your stories about home.
Great. Thank you, Thomas, and all our presenters for sharing your personal stories and photographs. You created a truly unique, engaging, and thought-provoking experience. And thank you to our attendees for engaging in this session with us and for sharing your own stories in the chat box. It was great getting to know all of you through our brief exchange. We look forward to moving through this day and the rest of the unconference experience with all of you. I have just a few reminders to share before we let you go. First, don't forget to check out the user experience guide. It's your best friend. Get to know it. It's your first stop when you have a question. If you still have questions, you can definitely send us an email at info@housingca.org. Also, be sure to visit the exhibit hall following sessions. You may not be able to spin the wheel in person, but you can still win prizes. I personally miss Plinko. Use the hashtag HousingCA2020 on Twitter and Facebook to help those unable to be here follow the conversation. You'll see the Housing California team live tweeting sessions as well, and you can go and engage in the conversation there. I hope you enjoy your lunch break. If you're interested, feel free to check out the HCD office hours at lunch and get all of your HCD funding questions answered. You can access the work office hours by visiting the agenda banner in Workcast. And finally, we look forward to seeing everyone at 1 p.m. for an exciting workshop about shifting the narrative, turning research into action.